The night had fallen thick and quiet over the city, muffling the sounds of horns and sirens that usually danced through downtown like restless spirits. Inside the St. Catherine Memorial Hospital, the sterile lights hummed softly above a near-empty lobby. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and old coffee, the kind that had been sitting too long on a warmer. Richard Caldwell stepped through the glass doors, his tailored black coat still clinging to the dampness of the evening drizzle. His polished shoes echoed sharply on the tiled floor with each step, announcing the arrival of someone who never truly belonged in a place like this, a man used to towering boardrooms, not crowded emergency rooms. He glanced around, his brow furrowed. Clearly out of place, the receptionist had already left for the night, and the security guard was dozing off behind the counter. Richard sighed. He was only here because of a strange call from an unknown. Number blocked, no voicemail, just a single message asking him to come to St. Catherine's immediately. No name, no details. Just a vague sense of urgency that haunted him enough to cancel his dinner with international investors and get in the car. He walked toward the central atrium, heading for the elevators that led to the upper wards when a small hesitant voice halted him in his tracks. Sir? He turned, startled. No one was there. Then, again, softer. Sir? Are you my new daddy? His gaze shifted downward. There, beside the vending machine near the corner, stood a little girl, barely 6. She wore a pink hoodie several sizes too big, with sleeves that swallowed her hands. Her jeans were ripped at the knees, and her shoes looked as though they had survived far too many seasons. Her face, though delicate, was pale and unhealthy pale, and her cheeks bore the faint traces of dried tears. But what caught him, what truly rooted him to the spot, were her eyes, big, blue, familiar, the man who'd faced down media scandals and outmaneuvered billion-dollar rivals suddenly didn't know what to say. I'm sorry, he muttered. Stepping closer, the girl clutched a crumpled photo in her small fingers and raised it. Mommy told me that maybe today I'd meet my new daddy. She said he'd wear a nice coat and walk like a man with big shoes. She said I'd know him. When I saw him, Richard took the photo with trembling hands. There she was. Anna? A memory hit him like a truck summer of 2018. Paris under soft lights and red wine and promises he hadn't kept. He had walked away from her for the sake of his company, telling himself it was for the best. She'd vanished from his world shortly after. He had searched for her once, briefly, but life pulled him back to the chase. He never imagined. You know my mother? He asked, his voice suddenly hoarse. She said if anything happened, you'd be the one to help, the girl whispered, taking a step back. She said if I got scared I should look for the man in a suit who looked like he didn't believe in miracles. Richard knelt in front of her slowly, almost unsure whether the ground would give beneath his knees. What's your name? Lily, where is your mom right now? She's sleeping upstairs. The doctor said she's very tired and has something wrong in her blood. They wouldn't let me in. I was waiting here 'cause Mommy said you'd come. He couldn't speak. Could this be his daughter? Was Anna trying to tell him something through this fragile little girl in a hospital lobby at midnight with no one else in the world? And then Lily leaned in, as if delivering a secret not meant for anyone else. I think you look like my daddy. You feel like him. Mommy never lied. In that moment, the powerful CEO, the empire builder, the Titan broke. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone and walked to the front desk. I need to see a patient, he said, his voice firm but unsteady. Anna Carter, now. And behind him, Lily quietly followed, still gripping her mother's photo. And something deep in her heart that told her this was the man she'd been waiting for. The elevator doors opened with a slow hiss, and Richard stepped out onto the 5th floor, the pediatric and hematology unit. He walked with long, deliberate strides, his heart pounding louder with every step. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered slightly, but he barely noticed. A nurse at the station looked up as he approached, and when their eyes met, something shifted in her expression. You're Richard Caldwell? She asked, her voice hushed. He nodded, still clutching the photo Lily had handed him. We've been trying to reach you. She listed you as her emergency contact just a few hours ago, the nurse said, rising from her chair. Anna Carter is in room 512. She was admitted this morning with acute leukemia symptoms. She's in serious condition. The words sank like stones into Richard's chest. Leukemia, he hadn't heard Anna's name in years, and now this? She left a note before she passed out, the nurse added, handing him a folded paper. It said, he'll come. He always does in the end. Richard's breath caught in his throat. That was Anna always poetic, even at the edge of despair. He moved silently toward room 512, paused for a moment, then gently opened the door. The lights inside were dim. Beeping machines stood sentinel near the hospital bed, where a pale figure lay with her face turned toward the window. Anna, even after all this time, she was unmistakable. Her once vibrant auburn hair had dulled, her cheeks hollowed by illness, but her beauty had not faded. She stirred. Then slowly her eyes opened, and when they saw him she smiled. Weakly, but with unmistakable warmth. I knew you'd come. She whispered, barely audible. Richard stepped to her side, words tangled in his throat. Anna, why didn't you tell me? She coughed gently, wincing. Because you had dreams. You were meant to build empires, not raise a child with a broke art teacher. I didn't want you to feel trapped. He shook his head, his voice strained. You think I would have left if I knew? Anna Lily is mine, isn't she? Tears welled in her eyes. She nodded. She looks like you, she said softly. The same fire in her eyes when she doesn't get her way. But also your stubborn heart. I tried to raise her strong, independent, but she's always missed something. I think she always knew something was missing. I missed everything, Richard said, his hands trembling as he reached for hers. And I can't forgive myself for that. Anna gave him a weak but serene smile. Then don't waste time. Be there now, for her. She reached to the side of the bed and handed him a sealed envelope. If something happens to me, this will explain everything. There's a guardianship clause. She's yours now, Richard. You can give her a life I never could. He took it, chest heavy with emotion. For the first time in a decade, Richard Caldwell felt helpless and yet more alive than he had in years. The hospital cafeteria was empty except for the hum of a vending machine and the buzz of a flickering light. Richard sat at a corner table, the envelope unopened in front of him. It had his name on it in Anna's delicate handwriting, the same script that had once filled love letters and birthday cards. He stared at it for a long moment, then finally tore it open with trembling fingers. The letter inside was short, but every word felt like a blow to his chest. Greater than Richard. I didn't tell you because I was afraid. Afraid of losing you again. Afraid you'd look at me differently. But mostly, I was afraid that if I told you about Lily, you'd come out of obligation, not love. I never stopped loving you. But I knew your world. I knew the pressure you were under. Raising Lily alone was hard, but she is the light of my life. She deserves better now. If you're reading this, it means I might not be here much longer, but you are. You're her father. And you've always been the only man I ever trusted with her heart, even if you didn't know it. There's a trust fund in her name. I scraped together what I could, but it's not much. I know you can give her the world. Just don't forget to give her your time too. Be the father I always believed you could be. Love. Richard folded the letter and pressed it to his forehead, eyes closed. The emotions he had long buried, guilt, sorrow, regret, rose like a flood. Then, without hesitation, he pulled out his phone. Contact my legal team, he said into the receiver. I need emergency guardianship documentation for a minor? And get my estate planner on the line. We're opening a trust immediately. When the call ended, he leaned back in his chair. He had missed her first steps, her first words, her first birthday. He wouldn't miss another moment. Asterisk, the same man who'd built a billion-dollar empire in silence, alone at the top, now realized his greatest legacy had been quietly waiting in a hospital lobby with a photo, a whisper, and eyes that matched his own. Asterisk. A week had passed since Richard Caldwell held that letter in his hands. In that short span of time, his entire life had shifted from an emotionally detached CEO to a man balancing power, paperwork, and a 6-year-old's bedtime story. Asterisk, the legal guardianship process was accelerated by Richard's influence. His team of lawyers worked around the clock, and soon enough, Lily was officially listed as his daughter in all state and legal records. But Richard wanted more than just a paper bond. He needed truth. Unshakable, undeniable proof that fate hadn't just sent him a stranger's child. She was his. Asterisk, he requested a private paternity test handled discreetly. Lily, still unsure of all the changes, simply giggled when they took her cheek swab. "Is this a game?" she asked, clutching his hand. "Do I get a sticker after?" He didn't respond, he just smiled and held on tighter. When the results arrived 2 days later, there was no doubt. 99.998% match. Lily was his daughter. He sat in his home office late that night, alone, staring at the paper. His walls were covered in plaques, awards, and framed magazine covers with headlines like "The Relentless Rise of Richard Caldwell." But none of those made him feel the way this result did. Asterisk, he didn't wait a moment longer. He called his CFO. Asterisk, "We're drafting a new trust," he said. 30% of Caldwell Technologies stock goes into it. Name it the Lily Caldwell Foundation. She's the sole beneficiary. "Nobody touches it, not even me." Asterisk, the CFO hesitated. "That's a huge stake, sir." "Are you?" Asterisk, "I've never been more certain about anything in my life," Richard interrupted. "Also, get my PR team ready. We're going public. She's my daughter, and the world should know." The media storm that followed was instant. Tech billionaire Richard Caldwell has secret daughter, and he's giving her a third of his empire. Asterisk, who is Lily Caldwell? The child heir to one of the world's biggest tech fortunes. Asterisk, from boardrooms to bedtime stories, the CEO's transformation nobody saw coming. Asterisk, but Richard didn't care about the cameras. He only cared about one thing now, giving Lily a life filled with love, laughter, and presence. The first thing he did was cancel his next 5 overseas business trips. The second was buy Lily a new pair of shoes, matching ones this time. Asterisk, the sun had begun to rise outside the hospital window, painting soft golden rays across the tiled floor. Anna's condition had stabilized. Her treatment was aggressive, but she responded well. For now, the danger had passed, and with it came a sliver of peace. Asterisk, Richard sat beside her hospital bed, holding her hand as Lily colored quietly on a sketchpad in the chair nearby. A nurse had left a tray of food untouched on the counter, and the machines beeped steadily in the background, a strange symphony of life refusing to give up. Asterisk, Anna turned her head toward him, her voice still raspy. "You really did it, didn't you?" Asterisk, "I had no choice," Richard said softly. "She already thinks I'm her daddy. And now I finally believe it too." Asterisk, "She used to talk to your picture every night," Anna said with a faint smile. "Said her daddy was on an adventure and would come back with stories. I was so sure I'd made a mistake not telling you. But she believed, she always believed." Asterisk, Richard's gaze shifted to Lily, who was humming softly as she drew flowers. "And castles. Asterisk, I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid I wouldn't be good enough. That I'd mess her up somehow, the way my father did with me. But now I see her, and I don't feel fear anymore. I feel purpose." Asterisk, Anna smiled through tears. "You always were better than you." Tuck. Asterisk, that night, back at his mansion, Lily's new home, Richard tucked her into bed for the first time. Her room was no longer cold and unfamiliar. It had become hers, filled with stuffed animals, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, and a bookshelf that nearly touched the clouds. Asterisk, he pulled the blanket up to her chin. "Good night, little one." Asterisk, she blinked at him, her voice barely above. A whisper, "Are you sure you're my daddy now?" Asterisk, he leaned down, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Not just your daddy, Lily, I'm your forever." Asterisk, her tiny arms wrapped around his neck, pulling him close with a strength that defied her size. And in that embrace, the hardened walls Richard had spent a lifetime building around his heart finally crumbled. Asterisk, in a world of contracts, takeovers, and headlines, one whisper had changed everything. He came to the hospital a CEO, he left a father, and in that transformation he discovered the one title that truly mattered. Daddy!